So maybe I think this is alright, but actually, so wait a moment, please. Yeah, it's working. It's working. My application is working. So yeah. So hello everybody. I'm Richard Gong of Work to Live podcast version. So what I was doing is there was a trouble or no not such a big deal, but actually my smartphone was not working well actually. There was a movement was slow movement was a slow shifts of each display, which is what was going on. Or, to start with, it took some not some seconds, but actually it took few seconds to open or to launch an application, which is what was going on before this recording. But actually so for, so far my smartphone is working well. So this time, so what I'm going to talk about is, how should I say, what I'm going to talk about is a difference, well, not a difference, but general difference between causality and correlation. So I mistakenly remember some pronunciation of correlation. So to start with, I recognize just that spelling of correlation as correlation. So after I checking, I just and so I checked out whether my pronunciation was correct, and how I check my pronunciation is Siri, which means I speak out my pronunciation, or I speak out some the pronunciations of some words. I'd like to check the pronunciations. I'd like to check the pronunciations of. So, and this time that word was a correlation. So I at first I pronounced correlation using Siri for creating the spelling of that word. But actually that didn't work. That didn't work well. So because not because, and instead of correlation, what was input in a dictionary was correlation, which means crowning, which means to celebrate, or to hold a ceremony for a new king. Or yeah, such a word was produced by the Siri of my smartphone. And this, so which is why you can hear some. I think you are going to hear some sounds or noises coming from the outside of my residence. And this time maybe you can listen to the cries of crows. Anyway, so likely you can hear some sounds or noises coming from the outside. Anyway, so which is how please enjoy my country audibly, and accompanying my podcast, or along with this episode of my podcast. So wow. Yeah, I almost said wow. But actually, this I don't know whether this is an exclamation of Japanese language. But actually, I almost said wow. Anyway, so I don't know whether this is in English people or native speakers of English language use this kind of exclamation or this kind of shouting. Anyway, so what I'm going to talk about, so the track of this episode is, the title of this episode is Causality and Correlation differ, which is important, isn't it? And the conclusion is, sometimes the difference of causality and correlation is important. So maybe I have dragged much of your time. So thinking about which, I'm going to finish this episode of my podcast. And essentially, not the essentially. So to start with, my my story was my speaking is really redundant, which is why I create not dozens or hundreds of redundant episodes, in my podcast. And to start with, and not to start with, moreover, I frequently digress in each episode, thinking about which, so not days before, in the past, in a moment, in a moment or in a day in the past, I began to tell you that the title and the conclusion of each episode. So anyway, so I have fully digressed. So just before actually telling you the meaning of before actually telling you the difference between causality, or the importance of the difference of causality and correlation. So I'm going to tell you each meaning, or each meaning, and the meaning of causality is. So so the meaning of causality is like, there's a relation between there's a relation between cause and effect, and or the relation of cause and effect is causality, roughly saying. And please check out. So I'm thinking of writing a correct meaning, or I'm thinking of writing a decent meaning of those two words in the description column of this episode. So please check out the description column of this episode. So that you can read not only the meaning of causality and correlation, but also the conclusion of this episode. And the meaning of correlation is a relationship of two things between and so based on the fact that there's a relation between those two things, or stuff like that. So there is such a meaning. And so roughly saying, the causality is a relation of cause and effect, and the correlation is that there's a relation between two things, stuff like that. And the meaning, so in this case, so scientifically saying, the difference of causality and correlation is really important, or that such a difference is a big deal in some scientific fields. But actually, but in this case, what I'm going to introduce is a former colleague. So I have worked with that colleague, and so not according to. So anyway, so that colleague is not so famous in that workplace. But actually, it's difficult to explain. But actually, so why he became a sort of famous, or why he became a sort of notorious, because so it's like, people who have worked with him often quit. So which means, thinking about the frequency of job changes, or leaving the workplace between his people and the rest of the people. His people often leave the workplace, or his people who have worked with him in the past, often leave away from that workplace I have worked in. So there was such a colleague in my past workplace. So I'm going. Of course, I can't tell you. I can't tell you his name. So to start with, as you can hear, so that person is a man. So, but actually, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you what kind of characteristic that he has. But actually, it's not like that. He often harasses, or he often bullies, or he often bullies, or he often torments. He often torments his people. So that is not to say that he's such a mean person who loves to torment, or torture, or bully his people who are on weaker positions than he is. So he's not such a malicious person. He's kind to other people. He's a gentleman, as long as I know. But actually, So if you think about the if you think only about the correlation, and if you misunderstand that there must be some causality, like he has harassed, or he has tormented, or he has tortured, or he has bullied his people frequently. So so you may misunderstand that that former colleague. You may misunderstand that that former colleague is really a harsh person, or that former colleague can be a demonic person, but actually he is really kind to other people. But actually it's like he happened to work with such people who frequently leave away leave away their workplaces. Their workplaces is in this case, my past workplace. So if you live in, for example, if you live in United States of America, or if you live in Canada, job changes are really frequent, aren't they? So, but actually, in the case of the field I work in, or in the case, yeah, in the case of the work field, or in the case of work market, or in the case of job market I work in. So job changes are not so frequent, or so in the case of the countries having frequent job changes, for example America and Canada, people work for a company for 2 or 3 years, and after which they frequently change jobs and move from a company to another company, which such a job changes are really frequent in the case of Canada and America. Maybe I think Anglo-Saxon countries have frequent job changes, but actually the country I live in is an East Asian developed country. So or in the case of my country, some job markets, or some fields of works have frequent job changes. For example, programming engineers frequently change their own jobs, and they frequently move away from a company, or from their former companies to their new companies. So such movements of employees are really frequent, or that maybe people or employees always move from one company to another company in the field of programming engineers or system engineers. And another case is, for example, salespeople and nurses and medical doctors, or physicians. Actually, they frequently move from a workplace to another workplace. Such movements of labors are really frequent in the case of the fields of salespeople and nurses and physicians in my country. Collectivity, of course, in the case of physicians and nurses, they work for some hospitals, and then they move to, for example, clinics or other hospitals. Such job changes are frequent in the fields, but actually in the case of the field I work in, or I work for, so job changes are not so frequent. But actually, of course, in this case, that former colleague had worked in the same field as I was in. And I'm still in that work in that field, but in the field, or in that job market. But actually, so there was such a gentle colleague who, so but actually, he happened to work with some people, and so those people frequently moved away from him, and when they were working under the supervision of that colleague. So there was such a colleague in my case, or in the past. So which is why I'm going to tell you before the ending of this episode, that the title is the causality and the correlation differ, which is important, isn't it? And the conclusion is sometimes the difference of causality and correlation is important, which is why, so only watching the data of correlation that, so his people who are working under the supervision of that colleague leave away or changes their own jobs frequently compared to other people working for other colleagues. But actually, that colleague, particularly that colleague was really that colleague was really kind to other people. So which is why, so if you misunderstand by only using the data of correlation, you may misunderstand the causality about the characteristic of that person. So it is what I'd like you to know this time. So that's it. Thank you very much for your listening. See you.